Guys, it's Dunk again. How's your day? Mine is pretty interesting because I really enjoy the spec that I'm running here. It is the Legacy of Nightmare Shimizu spec, and I have spoken with Wudijo a bit about that, about who had the idea initially and what was involved and where does it come from. And it's basically a mixture of input from Asia and Wudijo's own ideas. And Wudijo already released a very extensive and long, in-depth guide about that setup. But yeah, his guide is very long, so if you have the time, if you want to know all the details about that and how to really absolutely maximize your damage for that setup, I will link the guide and his channel. Go to his guide and watch that. If you just want to know the shorter version with my own gameplay experience I did so far, you can stay here, but really for maximum detail on that setup, go to Wudijo's guide. He does a very, very good job at promoting Demon Hunters and putting out guides for very difficult stuff. So he is a paragon of a Demon Hunter, basically. Alright, but for that setup here, you can see what I'm doing here. I'm circling around with strafe around the monsters, trying not to drop below 0% life, of course, but trying to stay below 25%. So that's a small window that we have here, and this also means that there's no room for healing. Health globes are your natural enemy here, so you have to avoid them. But how does it work? It's Legacy of Nightmares. Most of you probably know that already. And you have the Lord Greenstone fan that buffs the damage of your fan of knives a lot in the cube, and two very good weapons in your main and offhand. And then you use the convention of elements. You can see that rotation. It's on cold, now it's fire, the next one will be lightning. You will know that after a while. See, lightning, but only 16 stacks of fan of knives. I want to have maximum because most of the monsters have high health, and we have the passive called ambush, increasing our damage by 60% when the monsters are at maximum health, or above 75% actually. So see what's happening here. I move in and boom, the trash is gone. It's only elite that survived there. So that means I need to go, yeah, a bit trash that was out of the damage. I need to go find more trash, get the trash to the elite if I want to kill the elite, or alternatively I could just move on and skip the elite. But killing the elite without trash, without area damage, that's almost impossible. Well, not impossible, but it wastes so much time that you will lose your progress. Okay, and here lightning coming up soon. Press smokescreen, move in and blow it up. One elite is gone, the yellow is still there, and you can see that on the top screen here. Okay, and in the gameplay I'm using the Templar. Wudijo actually prefers the Enchantress for the range damage reduction and the higher attack speed. I prefer the Templar because the Templar, once he has the aggro of the monsters and he's fighting them, he's standing still as long as you do not move too far away from him. You see it as a purple spot on the minimap on the upper right side. He's standing there and he's basically not moving anywhere. And this means when you press smokescreen, the monsters don't see you anymore. And if you press smokescreen continuously, like I do it usually, just watch my smokescreen. I'm doing it, yeah, when I'm aggroing monsters I'm not doing it, but here, damage, and then I have to do it, and then I'm actually trying to keep smokescreen up as much as possible. And this means that the monsters lose aggro of me, so they lose track of me. They cannot see me anymore, and that means they search the next target. We do not have a companion here, so there's no wolf or anything, but we do have the Templar, and that means they go to the Templar. And when they go to the Templar, that is usually stationary unless you move far away like I did here. They will focus on the Templar, and that means that you will have a big cluster of mobs around the Templar most of the time, especially since he uses the S of Johan. And this maximizes the damage that you can put out. And for one, I prefer that over what the Enchantress offers. And also he adds some hatred regen, and I really like that, but that's preference. If you do like the Enchantress more, just use her. Alright, here picked up a health globe, checked, okay, damage is still there, and go on. Alright, but what's it all about? How does that actually work? Let's see. Alright, here we go. This is the character I have for that, and this is my Templar. It's Legacy of Nightmares, as I said, those rings, Wailing Host, Litany of the Undaunted, Both are good rolls, but both are not perfect rolls, because both have base damage, dexterity, and crit damage. You do want area damage. Whatever you do, you want area damage on those rings, because dexterity doesn't add you a lot. It's giving a bit of toughness, it's giving a bit of damage, but damage-wise, it's better to remove the dexterity here. And if you need more toughness because you lose the toughness from the dexterity, just use white gems for all resistance in the chest, for example, or even both chest and pants if you really need that. But the damage that you can get from 20% area damage here, it's just supreme. It's so much, you can't compare it to anything else that you can get on the rings. So yeah, Wudijo explains that in absolute detail. I'm not doing it, I just state it's the best choice that you can have. Amulet, I do have the Hellfire Amulet here, lightning, crit damage, dexterity, and ambush passive. It's a very good one, but it's not perfect. You want to have in the secondary range damage reduction, and instead of dexterity you would like to have either base damage or area damage. Actually, once again, area damage. In this case, it depends on how much area damage you have already, how much dexterity you have, but usually area damage or base damage would be the prime choices here. But I guarantee you, if you want to have an Hellfire Amulet like that, you need to be either very lucky or very consistent about that, and I wasted a lot of time for that actually. I will not do that again, for at least not for that spec. Okay, then the weapons. Fortress Ballista. As I said, the shield that regains, it's basically like life leech. It gives you 2.8% of your life forever whenever you hit. It stacks up to 10 times, and you get it like with 2 attacks per second, as you have without attack speed other than in the Paragons. You get like 5.6% life per second, and this is basically like life leech that doesn't add to your life glow, and this allows you to keep the Shimizu cloak power up all the time. And then Dawn, of course, we can't go around Dawn. We always have to use Dawn because Vengeance is just so powerful. You want to have the cooldown reduction here at 60% plus. I could go into detail, but losing 5% cooldown reduction here is worth more than a 10% roll on a weapon, actually. So if I would have a 65%, for example, I would have a much easier time dropping cooldown on my gloves here, for example. So the higher the better. Even if the weapon is a bit weaker, go with the one that is with secondary, with the legendary effect as high as possible. And then you will notice here, this one has no damage. The damage roll is gone. I re-rolled it for cooldown reduction, which is expensive because most of the time you only get the damage range. But you want that because the damage of your main damage or your only damage dealer, Fan of Knives, the damage is only calculated by your main hand. And here I have one with maximum damage. But again, both are not good but not perfect. You want, in this case, main hand, you want to have damage percent plus, dexterity, area damage, and of course high damage range. And no life per hit or life per kill on the weapon. This will screw you up completely. On the offhand, you want dexterity, vitality, cooldown reduction, and area damage. This is the desired stuff, because killing elites takes too much time, and killing elites only works with proccing area damage from trash. So area damage, even for killing elites, other than the Rift Guardian of course, area damage is worth much more than elite damage here. Okay, then go to the gloves. These gloves are very, very, very good, but not perfect for the maximum damage situation, because you want area damage. Once again, area damage instead of a cooldown reduction here. I'm not doing it because I really like to press smokescreen as much as I like and have a very high uptime of preparation, focused mind, and also permanent vengeance. You can, if you lose a cooldown reduction roll, one roll, like I have 38% or 43%. This is easily enough. If I click here, that's easily enough to have it up permanently, even with 63% here. If I lose that roll here, I can just put in this one for now. I'm down at 38. With a perfect one, it would be already enough. I would have permanent vengeance like that, but I do not have a perfect one. So yeah. Losing it means that I do not have permanent vengeance anymore, and this would mean I have to time my smoke screen to bridge that 1 second or what I get here without vengeance. Yeah, it works. It's a little bit clunky for me, and you can do as you please. The shoulders are like this: area damage, fan of knives damage, dex, vitality, and a secondary resist. The best secondary resist here would be physical or fire, because physical, if you fish for high rifts, you want to have something like Unburied or the Goatmen around them, and this means you want to have high physical resistance so that those spearmen of the goats don't kill you all the time. The higher your physical resistance, the better usually. So I have 1300 here, and the others are much lower. Like the lowest is only 672 here, cold and poison, but it works pretty well like that. Okay, then Helm, Leoric's Crown. This is also a perfect roll. Dex, Wit, Life, and secondary fire with a good legendary effect. Of course you can get 100 dexterity more, but that doesn't matter too much. And the combination of the stats here is now with the augments that we can get on with the Chaldean's Despair. The combination of stats is more important than the actual value of the stats. Alright, then Braces, also very good roll. Dex, Wit, Lightning, All-Res, but secondary pickup radius. You do not want pickup radius because it causes you to pick up health globes. You don't want that. So you can go, or ideal case is this roll with a bit higher numbers on resistance and the legendary effect and range damage reduction. That's what you want. Then Pants, also Dex, Wit, All-Res, 2 sockets of course, but unfortunately again I have pickup radius here. You don't want that, you can work around that, but it's not ideal. In case of the Pants, there's nothing good actually in the secondary that you can use in that spec, so like Gold Find or whatever is doing the trick. Boots, Iron Toe Mud Sputters, very good. Dex, Wit, All-Res, movement speed I have. If you get armor there instead of movement speed, it's good as well. It's a little bit less damage, but it's not noticeable, but it would be more toughness, but yeah, it's okay. If you go like that, it's okay. Secondary must not be life per kill or something, but yeah, it cannot have that anyway, so yeah. Okay, and then the special thing that is a mistake of Blizzard, because they allow things like that to happen. I have it, I'm lucky in that, but this should not be possible, but it is. It's Legacy Sash of Knives. It's the version that dropped in patch 2.1. Before they changed it to the legendary effect that says that it shoots out piercing knives that do nothing or whatever. In this case you have this belt has the Fan of Knives damage on it, but it's a special stat that you can usually not have on that item. That means it's separate, and I don't know how they do that, but you can re-roll it to Ancient because it dropped as a level 70 item and you can re-roll it to Ancient. This one is basically a crap roll. It's good for damage, but that's it. But I already wasted close to 10,000 Forgotten Souls on that, and I'm done with that. I have wasted enough time here, so I just slapped on a 95 gem to make sure I'm not re-rolling it again. Yeah, if you do not have that item, you have an alternative, yeah, just for the re-rolling here. I'm missing out on 20% toughness because of that stupid roll I have there. Yeah, well, if you don't have that belt and seasonal players can't have it, you can or should go with Thunder God's Vigor, because this adds lightning damage up to 15%, and this is the best damage option that you have, and you want that, you need that. Alright, that is, yeah, the Acula Cuirass. I didn't speak about the Acula Cuirass. Of course, Dex, Wit, Fan of Knives damage, and secondary physical resistance. Basically you want this roll, but you would prefer it with a little bit better legendary effect. However, it works like this. So the higher the effect, or the lower basically. If you have 90% here instead of 93%, that means that you can strafe a bit longer. You can just strafe a little bit longer before you drop the buff from that thing, which makes it easier to maintain the buff and keeps you safer in the Rift. But it works like that as well. Legendary gems are here. Bane of the Trapped, of course. Bane of the Stricken, you need that to kill the boss, otherwise you will take forever for the boss. And Tegel, because yeah, we strafe all the time and we get the bonus from Taeguk very fast. This will be viable next patch as well. And yeah, these are free prime choices. All other gems don't add anything actually. For the boots, there is one alternative. This is Ice Climbers, but you get less damage from cold, but cold is not very dangerous at all, and you lose the movement speed from the Iron Toes. So yeah, this is only the second best option, and it's pretty easy to get decent Iron Toes. For the amulets, you have some alternatives, basically two. If you get good items like Eye of Etlich, like this is a very good roll for it. Unfortunately, my Hellfire amulet is better because I get an additional passive. But this is a very good option as well. Ancient you want, or it must be ancient, and an Ass of Johan. If you happen to get a ancient Ass of Johan with this or similar rolls, this could also be a very good alternative, but I'm not absolutely sure about that because it will probably interfere with the Ass of Johan procs of your follower. And this might screw you up sometimes, it might help you a lot sometimes. So yeah, I'm undivided here. I do have the Hellfire amulet, so I don't bother with that. Then the Templar gear. I have the Thunder Fury here. Yeah, it would probably be even better to use a weapon that is even faster than that. And he has to be immortal, you know, with his enchanting favor. And that's it. All the other things, yeah, of course, Ass of Johan. And I do have two Word Wards. This one here is a legacy. That's another thing of Blizzard. They buffed the legendary effect of that ring. You need to find new rings. They have a new ID, and that means you can have both here. That means the Templar is stunning as well. He's stunning quite a lot actually, with the combination of those two rings, attack speed, cooldown, and attack speed on the weapon. So yeah, same here, attack speed, cooldown. You want attack speed and cooldown on your followers all the time whenever you can get it. Alright, and then go to the skills. Evasive Fire Focus, because it generates 7 hatred. You could go with Evasive Fire Hardened, but then it's extremely hard to keep your Aquila Cuirass buff up, and I would not advise that. Strafe, Drifting Shadow, you can move faster, and it keeps Hexing Pants and the Mantle of Channeling up. Smokescreen Special Recipe, because it's cheap and you want to have it ready all the time. Fan of Knives, Pinpoint Accuracy, because this is leagues apart from the other runes, because it's 1600 and all the others are at 620, and yeah, it has a higher cooldown, but that actually comes in handy here because we buff that. Every second you get 1 stack of damage from the cube weapon, which I didn't talk about so far. It's the Lord Greenstone's fan here. This one, every second you get 100%, so in the end you have 3,000% damage increase. And that's quite a lot, and it just fits perfectly with the rotation of Fan of Knives. Of course, Shimizu Cloak in the cube here. You can swap that out with the Aquila Cuirass. Just use the one that is better. Aquila Cuirass or Shimizu, one in the chest slot, one in the cube, and Convention of Elements in the cube. Of course, you have that damage up all the time. This is basically the only setup where you have, like, you get 200% increased damage from Convention of Elements. Simple as that. And that's why there's no way around that. Okay, go back to the skills. Yeah, Preparation, Focused Mind to keep your discipline up. You can see that in my runs. Vengeance, Dark Heart for more toughness and more damage, which is a no-brainer these days. Perfectionist, Tactical Advantage, movement speed and less cost for Smokescreen, and that's very desired, and they both support Smokescreen as well as Preparation, which also supports Smokescreen. You want that, and it just synergizes very well. Call the Weak for damage, Awareness for surviving if something goes wrong, and of course here Ambush in the passives. There's no way around Ambush. If you do not have a Hellfire amulet, the first one to drop would be Perfectionist, because you can run without Perfectionist. You just lose toughness, and it might be that your discipline starves after a while, but other than that nothing happens. So if you do not have a Hellfire amulet, remove Perfectionist. Never ever remove Ambush. You want Ambush. Ambush is a must. Alright. Yeah, and that's basically it. I will just add a bit more gameplay. The fights against the Rift Guardians in my 85 and 87 clear. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have some more questions about the gameplay of that setup, just go ask either Wudijo or me or anyone else in the leaderboards who might be willing to answer. It is very rewarding to master that spec. I really like that. You need skill, you need to play with what you have, you need to avoid certain things, but you can get a lot of profit if you do that properly. Okay, see you next time and enjoy the last gameplay parts. Goodbye.